with me.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Roxx with me. Thank you all for joining and rocking with me. Today I have a very special guest who coincidentally we crossed paths and haven't left each other's side since, which is for me to do that, it's unheard of, but there's a reason and I'm not fighting it. I have my friend Ranessa, who is an entrepreneur. I always say that word.
I love it.
She's also a mom and a badass mujer. She's the owner of Sugar and Spiked Beautique. Welcome. I'm super excited you agreed to come on.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited too.
So when she heard I was doing a solo podcast, she's like, I got you. You're number one groupie. I'm all over it. I got it. She was ready.
Yeah, I was ready for sure.
And those are the type of friends I feel like people need and need to keep around and have and stuff. But surprisingly, we haven't met in person. Yet we're we know so much of each other and stuff already. Although sometimes you do have to repeat stuff to me because you already know I forget.
Yeah.
But I feel like you're used to it. But why don't you tell the listeners how our paths crossed?
So one day on Instagram, I was looking for a new podcast to listen to, and I posted one of those questions that you can post on your story. And it was like, hey, give me a podcast recommendation. And Roxy popped in my DM or slid in my DM. I was like, hey, you should listen to my podcast. So I started listening to Good Vibes, Thick Thighs.
Yeah.
Yes, Good Vibes, Thick Thighs. And I fell in love with Roxy even more because she's so amazing. So,
oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
I remember that we even talked about if we went to school together because of our last names, we would totally be standing next to each other.
We'd be besties.
Yeah. Because I remember how sucky it would be okay, alphabetical order, and I'm gonna be at Lobos all the way at the fucking end, and I'd be like, all right, guys, see you at the end. But yeah, I think we totally would have hit it off in school too. I met you as a business owner, but it's crazy because you have this whole thing going for you and you're so successful and making it happen. And the thing I love most about you is you're still hella humble. And you could tell your heart is so genuine.
Oh, thank you.
So I think that's why it's just okay, I could vibe with you. I can keep you.
So much. I appreciate that.
Let's start with how you started your business because we were talking about it and I didn't know that you started it a fashion line first, right? A clothing line first.
So I actually started riding motorcycles when I turned 18. I bought my first motorcycle.
Oh, and check you out.
I know. Thank you. So back then there was very few women bikers. So they didn't have any t-shirt lines or anything that I knew of in my area for women. So I was like, I'm just going to make myself a couple of t-shirts at the local indoor swap meet, with catchphrases. I remember one of the first ones was beauty, brains and bikes, makeup, men and motorcycles. So I would make these t-shirts just for myself and my sister and my friends. And we would wear them out when we would go to motorcycle events. Well, everybody fell in love with them and they're like, can you make us a shirt? Where'd you get it from? So I was like, yeah, sure. So I printed a couple dozen of each design and we sold out. It was crazy how fast we sold out. And then Biker Beauty was born. So that was the clothing line that started my entrepreneur journey. I did that for 10 years. 10 years. It was just a side hustle. I would go to different motorcycle events, bike nights or car shows, and I would sell Biker Beauty everywhere. Everyone knew the name. It was a house name in LA. Anybody, or especially girls who rode, knew the line because it was one of the only ones around.
Yeah.
So I had that business for 10 years, and finally it was just okay, this isn't going anywhere. I was still having to work full time and do this on the side. And I went to a pop-up that my friend Monique from Abigail Barraza Foundation had to sell. And when I showed up, there was a fashion truck. And I fell in love with the truck. I had never even heard of them, seen them. I knew nothing about them. It was the first time I had ever seen it. And I asked her, hey, do you know more about these trucks? And she kind of gave me some info. and I did some research and I bought my own. Actually, I bought an RV and tried to renovate it. It was like horrible. It was so embarrassing. And then one day I just found my fashion truck that I have now and I renovated it and Sugar and Spiked Boutique was born and it's been booming ever since.
That's so awesome. Now for like the people that don't know what the fashion trucks are, what are they?
So the way I like to describe it is it's like a food truck with clothing inside. So you walk into the back and it's just like it's like my own closet, like closets, cubbies, shelving, and I sell pinup dresses. So there's pinup clothing, and then I sell a ton of handbags. So there's handbags all over the truck.
I remember you when we first started like becoming close and stuff, and then like you like hired me to like read your oracle cards and stuff like that, and you ended up sending me a purse.
Yes.
I still have it, and I remember getting so many compliments on it, and like, oh, you need to follow on IG because they're not out here.
Like a wedding or something, right? And everybody was asking you about it.
Yeah, I took it to a wedding too. Yeah. I've taken it everywhere and they're always like, oh, that's so cool. Because it's like it's like a tarot card on each side, the moon, and then I think, is it the moon card?
I think it's the moon and the death card, yes.
Yeah. So like I get a lot of compliments whenever I wear that. And I'm like, and it came in perfect timing too, because when you sent it, I was like, oh my God, you read my mind, because my purse had literally like my little wrist wallet thing had literally just broke. And I think I sent you a picture of that too. Like,
oh, you did. You did. I remember. Yes.
I was like, I think you're psychic too, because perfect timing.
I think as I've gotten older, I'm very intuitive for sure.
Oh yeah. I think you are too. Like, because you even know things, and then you're like, I knew it.
That's actually that purse. It's one of my top sellers for sure. I carry Halloween stuff year round. So that is like one bag that I always have in stock, and I knew it would be perfect for you.
And it is. I still have it. I still use
awesome.
it. And when you first started making those shirts, did you grasp like how big it was going to be? You starting like probably one of the first known like female biker clothing line.
You know what? I don't think I realized how big of the deal it was until people started seeing us out, and they're like, hey, aren't you Biker Beauty? And I was like, how do you even know that? Like,
that's so crazy.
Yeah. Eventually, like, people knew who I was, and I would be like at different like events and stuff, and they'd be like, hey, aren't you Biker Beauty? And I'd be like, oh yeah, that's me. But it took a while to get used to. But the other thing is people would order from out of the country for the clothing line. So I've shipped to like Puerto Rico, Guam, and Mexico, like different parts of Mexico. I shipped nationwide, like not in the beginning, obviously, but like in the middle, like probably like 5 years in, I was shipping nationwide. But to ship out of the country was like, wow, this is really happening.
Yeah, that's a huge accomplishment. Yeah, hopefully your fans in Guam and Mexico and Puerto Rico are listening in.
Oh, that'd be so awesome. Yeah, for sure.
And like you made these slogans and logos up and you like put it together yourself and stuff.
Yeah, and they're like like I have some of the original shirts and they're like basic fonts, like so boring. But they sold really well. Now I still do t-shirts, but my designs are like more elaborate, I guess. So like to see those shirts, it's like, wow, like even just to see my setup from Biker Beauty compared to my setup with my truck. Now I do huge events like the LA County Fair, and my setup is just like outrageous. Like it's wild and it's amazing. Like I love it. It's fun, you know? But to see, like, I used to sell t-shirts off of just like a 6-foot table on a canopy. Yeah. And just to see like how much I've grown just from that, it was just like, it's very humbling for me because I know that I started like literally from nothing and grew into this amazing business.
And when you got like your little clothing fashion truck thing, like, did you take the leap right away or were you contemplating it for a while? Like, should I, shouldn't I?
So the RV, when I first had the RV, it was just like a money pit. And I kept trying to invest to make it happen. Mm-hmm. And one day I had created, it was like my own Facebook group and it was called like Small Business Big Heart. And there was very few people in it, but this girl posted in there and she posted the fashion truck. And the fashion truck was pretty complete, like when she was selling it. Like it had the lighting, it had some shelves and closets in it. So I just remember like messaging her and telling her, hey, like, can I come see it? And I went without any money because I was like, if I go, I'm just going to buy it. And I don't want to just buy it. Like, I want to make sure like it's running, you know? So I told her, okay, I really want it. If it starts, I'll give you $500 and I'll come back tomorrow with the rest of the money to take it. But I just need it to start because I want to make sure it's running. Yeah. So I went and it was in Hawaiian Gardens. It wasn't even far from my house. I'm in Whittier. Hawaiian Gardens is like 10, 15 minutes down the 605 freeway. Like it's really close. And I met her and she was super sweet and she let me start it. And we even took it for a little spin. It was like in a storage unit. So we just took it like for a little drive and it ran perfectly. And I was like, okay, I'll be here tomorrow. Here's $500 and I'll come tomorrow to pick it up. I went, picked it up. I think the next weekend I was at the Long Beach Motorcycle Swap Meet selling like my t-shirts out of the truck. I was like ready. I have pictures of the first time that I took it out.
Oh my God, you're gonna have to share them.
Yes, for sure. I will share them. But yeah, I was ready. I was just like, okay, well, if I'm gonna do this, we're gonna just go all out. And we were at the motorcycle swap meet the next weekend.
And the RV, what happened to the RV?
I ended up selling it, and I wasn't familiar with RVs. Like I didn't grow up like in them or anything, so I didn't know anything about them. And I sold it to this couple, and the husband just totally renovated. Do you remember LuLaRoe?
Yes.
It was they did like leggings and stuff. She sold that and her husband renovated it for her to be able to do a fashion out of it. So it was pretty great for her because her husband knew about the RV and what to do. But for me, it was just a money pit for me.
Because at that point, were you doing it like on your own? Like, because
I got an RV from like a tow yard and we had to like completely gut it and like start from scratch. And it's a lot of work. So it wasn't happening. I'm telling you, it was a money pit. Like I remember the first one I got, it was just like full of like roaches. And I was like, no, you have to take this back. I don't want it. One thing, I do not like roaches. Like I just can't. And so I took it back and they gave me a different one. And that one didn't have any bugs, but it was just like crazy to have to empty it out. And it was a wild experience for sure.
When you got your new fashion truck and you went out that first weekend, I bet you had this sense of like, oh shit, I'm doing it, huh?
Oh, absolutely. And people like at car shows and like motorcycle shows like that event, they're like car builders and motorcycle builders and like they're into like building stuff. So when they like saw the truck, they were like, what is this? Because when I first got it, there wasn't that many. I've had it 10 years, so 6 years actually. And there wasn't that many around this area. So they had never seen it before. So here I am pulling up. So what it is, it's kind of like a UPS truck. Okay. So I'm pulling up in this big, and it's like a burnt orange. So I'm pulling up into this big truck. And I open it up and like the lights turn on and it's just closets and just like stuff. I had mannequins. So I put mannequins outside. Like it was like this whole thing. And they were just like, how did you do this? Like, where'd you get this idea from? Like they were just so intrigued by it because nobody had ever seen them before.
I remember you posting a side-by-side picture of how you started and how you are now, because when you first had that fashion truck, you just literally just opened the back and it was just what's in it. And now you take up like what's in it. And then on the side, you set up like a table with like a tent and like with more stuff you sell. So
yes, it's like a 10 by 20 canopy. It's not just like a basic canopy. We have a lot of stuff. I'm super extra. And I think the biggest thing with that is it's the branding. My truck now, it's wrapped with my logo. My canopy is like branded with my logo. So everything always has to be logo when it comes to stuff like this. So they know that it's all connected. So it's like a 10 by 20 canopy with like it's like a full store inside and out of the truck.
That side by side was like, dang, she's moving on up. Look at her. Do you ever feel like you'd ever like open up your own site, or do you like the whole traveling? Because I know like you and me talk, and you've been to like fairs like up North California, Southern California, and everywhere in between. Do you like the travel stuff, or do you feel like you'd settle at one location?
So eventually? I don't think the storefront would be good for me because of some of the car shows that I do. They're like 3-4 day car shows. So I would have to close my store. And I think the economy is different right now. Obviously, for everybody, everything's so much more expensive. So I think like rent and stuff is really expensive. So the overhead for the truck is paid for. So overhead is the vendor fees, gas, and the registration for the truck and insurance. So overhead is way low compared to having to pay a monthly lease for a storefront. So I think for me, this works better because I could even have people come to my house and shop the truck in my driveway, and I don't even have to go pay for a vendor fee.
That's true. It's crazy how you like put a lot of thought into it, making it like,
oh, yeah. A lot of thought.
Did you come across any doubt throughout any of the time?
Of course, yes. I think all of us always like second guess ourselves and we're our own worst critic. When I first got it and it wasn't wrapped, it was like this burnt orange color. And I remember going to one of my first pop-ups outside of the motorcycle show with it. It was actually, again, with ABF Foundation. And I was the only fashion truck that wasn't wrapped. It didn't have my logo. It was just like this burnt orange. I'm talking burnt orange, like the old school, like hot rod burnt orange.
Yeah.
I just stood out like a sore thumb. And I remember that was the first time I realized I had anxiety. Like I just couldn't even drive my truck home. Like I had to have someone come and drive it home because I was just like, I think I was just doubting myself in that moment. Like my truck isn't even up to par with these other fashion trucks. Like how am I going to compete when I don't even have a wrap, like, or anything, my logo on my truck? So that next week I like did so much research and I had my truck wrapped within a month. And that's not easy. That's a lot of work because I had to design the wrap, find a company to do a truck that big. And wraps were barely becoming popular at that time too, that I knew of. So it was a lot of work, but shout out to Big City Print. They're in Pico and they like totally just came through and they wrapped it quick. I could not believe how quick they did. And I have pictures of it then too.
Oh, really? That's crazy.
So when I got it wrapped, they had painted the inside of the whole truck and the rims the same color, which it was like a yellowish, like beige color, ugly, like so ugly. So one of my friends, he did, I think it's called powder coat painting, and my rims are purple. They match my wrap. So there was so much stuff that I wanted to do once I got into it, you know, like I wanted to really make it like personal to me. So like it's literally a purple truck driving down the street with leopard on it. Like you see it and you know it's me. People are always honking at me, yelling at me, like, "Hey, Ranessa." Because you can't mistake my truck with a different truck. Like, you know, it's me.
And like, you're a female business owner. That's already a huge accomplishment. And the fact that like back then, what was it, 10 years ago that you started Biker Beauty, like you saw the need for it and you made it happen. For those that are like wanting to start something, but kind of afraid to take that first step, what advice would you give them?
Just start. Honestly, you have to spend money to make money. So I think that's something that people need to know. You're not going to just go in this not spending money. Like it's a huge investment, but what you have to know and believe in is you're investing in yourself. So every time like I spend, $3,000 to $5,000 on merch, I'm just like, holy moly, like this is scary because you don't know if you're going to sell it. Like you're taking a risk on yourself, but I always end up selling it. It always ends up selling. So I think really just start and just believe in yourself and believe in your vision, because my store now is way bigger than my vision was when I first started. Like it's beyond that vision,
That's crazy. So, and you're also online too for people to shop online, right?
Yes, I have an online store and then I have an Instagram shop too. So you could shop directly from Instagram.
I've shared a lot of your products to like people because you're right. You're like one of the few that have like Halloween themed kind of stuff all year round.
One of the bigger accounts that I have is Loungefly, which they're the mini backpacks from Disney. So people are always like, how do you have that account? Like, I don't understand, but I don't know how, but I got it and I will not let it go. And I sell those bags and they're like, people like follow me just for those bags. It's crazy.
So how did you come across Loungefly to like partner with them?
I used to buy them and then people started doing the handbag bingos. Have you seen that on like Instagram and Facebook?
I don't know. What is that?
So what it is they do bingo live and you pick a number and you get to choose like a bag. And most of the time it's Loungefly. But those people are buying the bags retail. But during the pandemic, everybody was doing that bingo. And it was just easy because everybody wants those bags. And those bags range from like $60 to $100.
Right.
They're like $10 to play bingo and you can win one of those bags. So I was always like kind of like, I guess, into them. And then I just inquired like, hey, let me see if I could get an account. Because my wholesale accounts across my business, I have probably like at least like 5 dozen vendors that I shop from, like a lot. Because I don't always want like certain things. Right. But I have a list of like, if I want Halloween stuff, I know where to go. If I want Disney stuff, I know where to go, like different brands. So I inquired and they approved me. And they popped up on me at LA County Fair to make sure that I was displaying their bags the way they needed to be displayed. Because
no way.
A big brand. Yeah. So they came to the LA County Fair, didn't tell me. They just showed up and they're like, okay, you're doing a good job. I'm so-and-so from Loungefly. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. But it was really cool because I take pride in my business and the way I display my stuff, the way I want people to come in there and be like happy to be there and not like, this is boring, Yeah. So they really liked my display. And the girl, she would always tell me like, dude, your truck is really cool. I've never seen anything like it. And I'm the only mobile business that has that account.
Oh, wow. Dude, that's awesome.
It's really cool. I think they were saying I'm one of like 75 small shops in the US that has that account, which is a huge deal.
Yeah, because they're super big. Because I remember seeing, and you know what? I actually thought the same thing. I was like, I wonder if she pays retail and then just resells these or what. But like, you actually have like an account with them. That's so badass.
It is, but it's expensive because you can't just buy like, oh, let me have 3 of this bag and 3 of that bag. Like you have to buy dozens of one bag. So I'm like hustling, like try to sell these bags, but they sell themselves for sure. When I'm at a fair, they sell like crazy. That's like my biggest seller.
Like, I think I've seen the Friends, you had like Friends one too.
Oh, the Friends stuff. Door and the wallet. Yeah. The wallet was super cute. It was a couch wallet.
Yeah.
Really cute.
I think you have an eye for like the kind of stuff that people are going to want because like your displays for sure, from what I see on Instagram and stuff, they're always set up like super badass, like captivating, where I'm sure people stop just to look. And then like on the site too, in your Instagram store, you have like things listed that are actually things that people are gonna want, not like, that's cute, but nah.
Right. You know where I see because I have like a website and I can see the analytics behind the scenes, and yeah, there's a lot of people visiting my website that from places like, I'm like, I've never even been there. I wonder how they've like, I wish I could like reach out and be like, hey, how'd you hear about my store? Because sometimes I'm just like, I don't know anyone in Minnesota. Like, how does someone in Minnesota find my store? But yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's super awesome. And like your kids, like balancing that life with being a mom, was it difficult for you?
Oh, absolutely. Especially the traveling to fairs out of like, so like you said, I go to the fairs. I go to Alameda County Fair, which is near San Francisco. It's like Pleasanton. And then I'm supposed to be in Big Fresno right now. I decided not to go. So I do Big Fresno and then I did Ventura County, LA County, and then I do a lot of shows in between. But the traveling, I think it took a toll on the kids a little bit because they're like, we miss you. We want you home. Like you're gone the whole summer because I was gone like pretty much the whole summer. So that's why I decided not to do Big Fresno, just to be home with my family. But yeah, it takes a toll on the kids. Like they need their mom, and they know that I'm doing this to support them and to give them a comfortable life. But I also have to balance it out, so I have to cut down the amount of fairs that I do every year because I was like, oh no, we're making money. We're going to go to all the fairs. But, the kids, Jace is 18 and Jazzy is 13. So they're still young where they don't need me all the time, but they need to see my face like every couple of days or so,
Yeah. No, yeah. And it's cool because they're at that age where you think they would be like, oh no, we're too cool for mom. But the fact that they're like voicing that they miss you and want to see you, that's amazing.
Yeah, no, it was really cool. I don't think I realized it. I was just like, oh, they're old enough, they're fine. But when they both told me, I was just like, oh, well, I guess they do like me a little bit.
That's funny. How old were they when you first started?
So I actually started 15 years ago. I think it's actually 16 years this year because I started in 2007. So Jace
Okay.
was 2 years old when I started this business. So he grew up in this business because when we would do pop-ups, I could remember my mom like carrying him or pushing him around in the stroller when I was like setting up my setup. Like he's been in this business with me. Like I started it because of him, because I wanted to be able to provide a good life for him. So it was like a side hustle on top of my full-time job.
Does he like remember going to the fairs and pop-ups with you?
The fairs is only the past couple of years, but I think he does remember like the bike shows and stuff. So he is a biker kid. His dad rides and I rode. So his middle name is Ryder. Like he's a total biker. So
That's so
he has
cool.
like, what's funny is I just found this flyer and it's from one of the Harley dealers. And the flyer is Jace on a Harley with Santa and Hooter girls.
Oh,
And it's like them promoting like Santa coming to the Harley shop or something. I don't even remember how he got on that flyer, but he's like been a biker kid since he was like in diapers still. So
that's
yeah,
so
he totally
cool.
remembers that stuff. And he shows it off any chance he gets. And I always send him like old pictures, so he'll like send them to his girlfriend or his friends. So yeah, he remembers.
That's so cool. And your biggest supporter, was that your mom throughout the
Oh,
years?
absolutely. I mean, I know not everyone has great relationships with their mom, but my mom is just like everything to me. She's my best friend, one of my biggest supporters. Like, even when I feel like maybe I can't do this anymore, she's like, no, Mija, like, we'll figure it out. And she's there. She's 71 actually this year. She turned 71. And she's there at the fair with me, working the 12, 15-hour days. When I'm out of town, she makes her husband drive her all the way wherever I'm at just to visit me because even her, she misses me too. She's a huge, huge supporter for sure. But I do want to mention Jazzy, my daughter. She has her
Right.
own shop.
Oh, does she?
Yeah, so she hasn't been doing it lately because she's been busy with like sports and school and stuff, but she actually has her shop is called Cherry Slime Shop. So she would make slime, like different types of slime and sell like kids like toys and fidgets and like those little octopuses that the mood changes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
She would sell those. So she's a little entrepreneur herself. So
She takes after her mom. That's so cool.
her mom and her grandpa from her dad's side, he's an entrepreneur too. And he's a very successful entrepreneur. So she gets it from both sides.
That's so awesome because you're just like you're teaching them how to create that like generational wealth and like make money work for itself, basically.
So that is literally a life goal of mine. Like that's literally a life goal. So yes, that's exactly what it is.
And she's following your steps, creating her own little shop and stuff. Like she's not shy about it or nothing.
No, and even we've done like a couple pop-ups and she does her own setup. She does her own thing. Like I kind of just let her, do her thing and she does it really well. So I'm really proud of her.
That's super cool.
Thank
That's so
you.
awesome that you're like, yeah, do it instead of telling her like, no, Mija, like maybe not now, or maybe when you're older, like trying to like convince her to wait. Like you're just like, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and when she started, she's like, I have the money to buy the ingredients for my slime. Like I have the money for everything. I just need you to take me to get it. And I was like, okay. So she started with her own money. It wasn't like, hey mom, buy this so I could start my own business.
Right.
It was like, hey mom, I have my money and I want to start my own business. And I was like, let's do it.
That's super cool. You guys turned it into like a mommy and me type of like thing that you guys do now. That's so awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, this podcast that I have, I like to share like stories that make us remarkable, and everything you've been saying is just like admirable, honestly.
Thank you.
And stories about resilience. And like, do you have a point in your life where you think back now and you're like, damn, like I didn't realize how resilient I was until I went through that or until I was on the other side of that situation?
So part of my story is I grew up with a single mom and our family was a lot of like gang life and
Yeah.
just, not such an easy life. I was fortunate enough that my mom was my mom and she protected us from it and we weren't like totally like involved in any of that stuff. And I think growing up with a single mom, you kind of see her struggle. And for me, I always knew I didn't want to struggle like that. And I wanted to be able to also take care of my mom and do things for her that she couldn't do for herself or shouldn't have to do for herself.
Yeah.
So I think for me, it was just growing up realizing like I wanted better for me. I wanted better for my own kids, my mom, my nieces and my nephews. Like I wanted to break generational curses. My dad actually died at the age of 42 from a drug overdose.
Oh,
So
wow.
that was something that still impacts my life till this day. Like it's something that I'm very adamant about being drug free, my kids being drug free, my nieces, my nephews. Like it's a life goal. Like for me, like you were saying about generational wealth, that's literally like a goal that I've written down. I want to break generational curses of drug addiction and alcohol addiction. Like super important, and also create generational wealth because when I was young we did struggle. You know, my mom made ends meet because she was hustling. She was an Avon lady, she was on welfare, but she always made it happen. Like I can't remember ever going without at least the bare necessity, and I'm grateful for that. I can remember being in her little beat up car and being embarrassed, like having her drop me off like a block down the way from the school because I didn't want anybody to see me in that car. But now that I'm an adult and I know how hard things are, I respect the fact that she always had a car. Like she always made it happen. She always like just made sure that we had everything that we needed with or without my dad. And I think that is like a huge thing for me. I think as far as resilience on in my business, I think getting through the fairs, and unfortunately there's a lot of other entrepreneurs that aren't as supportive as you would like them to be. And they
Mm-hmm.
don't want you to do as well as them. They want you to do enough, but they don't want you to do better than them. So when
Yeah.
people would see me doing really well, like especially like at the fairs or whatever, they would kind of like, I feel like try to like bring my energy down or like try to make me feel like I wasn't good enough or I don't know. They just tried to make me feel like less than.
Mm-hmm.
And I always still did really well. I still kept a good energy and I still, you know, I killed it. I kill it at the fairs. I make like so much money in a short amount of time, but it's hard work, blood, sweat, and tears. 12 to 15-hour days, and I absolutely love it. Like it's just what I love to do, and I love to make my customers feel amazing when they come into my store. Like a lot of my customers have become my friends because of the way that I make them feel, and I think it's super important for that.
Yeah, you have that heart. You have that like genuine type of like loyalty behind it too. Like you grab onto people and don't let go type of thing.
Yeah, and you know what's crazy is I guess part of resilience is also friendships. I've lost a few friendships this year, huge friendships. And I think this year was a big life-changing experience for me and I was resilient through it, but you have a big part of that. Oh, I'm going to cry.
Oh.
Such like uh, you are such a light, a bright light for me. And I really appreciate your friendship.
Oh, now you're gonna make me cry.
Oh my God,
That
I
means
didn't mean to
so
cry.
much. It's okay. But that means so much to me. You have no idea because it's like sometimes you think like, fuck, am I making a difference? Like,
Oh my God, Roxy, are you kidding me right now? You are like one of the most special people I've ever met. You have no idea.
and it's crazy because every time like we're not always texting each other, but when we do, it's like if you text me, it's like, dude, I was just thinking about you, and vice versa.
Yeah.
Aw, that means so much.
I didn't mean to cry. I'm like, oh my gosh. We remember we were joking about it earlier, and I didn't even think about saying this, but it just like it's true. Like you're such a bright light in my life, and I love that. I know you're in Texas, and I'm like, oh my God, can I text her? What time is it? You know, because it's a little bit of a time difference, but I know that if I text you, even if we take a little while, you're always going to respond. And like, you're one of my really, I consider you one of my really good friends. And I'm like you, like, I don't have a lot of close friends, but
Yeah.
you're definitely one of them, even though you're so far.
That's why I'm waiting for you to come to the wedding. Like,
I'm going to try my hardest. You have no idea.
but
I'm going to try.
yeah, and I think that also makes it like our like friendship work so well is that like even if I don't text you right away and I take 2 to 3 business days to respond, like I'm gonna
Oh,
still
like 2 to 3
respond.
business days for sure. And what's crazy is when you lived in California, you would have been really close to where I am. Because I'm in
I
Whittier. You were in like Cerritos, right?
I was in Paramount.
Oh,
But
yeah.
yeah,
That's
because
like 20 minutes from me.
I even have a cousin that lives in Whittier, and she's who I went to after I left my abusive ex. Like she picked me up and I went to her house. But yeah, like all that is like super like close to each other. Like
yeah, it's really close. We were literally neighbors.
yeah. That's so crazy. But I'm so glad our paths have crossed in the way they did and like our relationship has blossomed into like this friendship like you said, like real recognize real.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I see the light in you and like your big heart and stuff, and it's just like that's the kind of people you want to keep around, like that you fight for, that like you're not just going to put aside or whatever. The whole texting thing, it's crazy because ever since I left that abusive marriage, like I have my phone, but I've gotten in the habit of letting it go sometimes. And when I would first do that, or like when it would die, I would get really, really bad anxiety because I was like, oh my God, I got to check in when like I was already gone, you know? So, right. Like that's why I appreciate people so much when they see that, like, I'm gonna text you back. It's gonna take some time, but I'm gonna text you back. Like it gives me so much like that comfort. Like, okay, like they're not gonna be mad if I take a while, you know?
No. I believe in the focus on iPhone. Like when I'm with my boyfriend, I turn my focus on. The only people that could get a hold of me are my mom, my sister, and my kids. Nobody else. If anybody else texts me, calls me, it just stays there until I turn my focus off. Because I think it's really important to like cater to your relationship more than people do, because cell phones are crazy. Like people are on their cell phones all day long. So I believe in giving him that time and attention because we are long distance, and it works. Trust me, it works. It helps our relationship a lot.
Yeah, for sure. And then me with my crazy work schedule, waking up at 4 a.m, like I'm in bed by 9. Like I'm like that meme where it's like, text me, I'm here for you anytime. And then you text at like past midnight and it's just
you're knocked out.
Yeah. But I got you in the morning.
Early in the morning.
Yeah, heck yeah. Early in the morning. I'm right there. I also want to ask, like, because you started your business, like you said, it's been like 15 years. You've gone through the pandemic. How was that? Like, because that probably built some badass like resilience in you during that time.
So yeah, it did actually. So, during the pandemic, everybody was shopping because everybody was home on their phones, on their computer. So I was one of the businesses that was fortunate to stay pretty busy. But you want to know with a crazy story. So my friend Val, her mom is very like girly, and she had to go to like a biopsy or something. And she was like, Mija, do you think you can sew me a mask? And this was before the pandemic. Okay. She's like, do you think you could sew like a leopard mask for me to wear to my doctor's appointments? And I was like, yeah, like I could totally make a mask. It shouldn't be that hard. So I make her like, I want to say like 3 or 4 masks. They were really cool. She was so excited. And I posted them on Instagram just to be like, hey, like I made these masks for my friend. And the pandemic hit and everyone needed masks like a week later.
Shut up. The timing of that.
So my mom and I made, I want to say 30,000 masks in like 4 months.
No way.
In my business at home. Like in my dining room, like I was sewing, she was cutting. We were going everywhere looking for fabric, looking for everything, like looking for the elastic, looking for like so many things. Like we made so many masks in a short amount of time. That's the other thing that kept my business afloat. Like we were just sewing all day and all night.
That's crazy. I remember trying to make a makeshift mask out of like an old t-shirt that said like, it was a USC t-shirt, but it's funny because it said Trojans. So I was like, people are going to get confused. Am I going for the USC or for fucking condoms? Either way, protect yourself, guys.
That's so funny. But everybody wanted like the matching mask. They wanted leopard masks. They wanted team masks. They wanted all. So we were going everywhere looking for fabric. And downtown was shut down. Like there was no fabric district. Like if you were getting fabric from downtown LA, you had to know somebody who knew somebody because everything was shut down. They weren't even allowed to open. So it was crazy, like having to find fabric, having to find elastic, having to find thread. Like it wasn't easy because everybody started making masks like from one day to the next. People still make them. I don't make them anymore. After that 4 months, I was done. I haven't made a mask since because obviously the big businesses started producing them mass production and
Right.
like you didn't have to make them anymore. So it was
Yeah.
more to protect people, to help people and everything, but it just got to a point where it was just so overwhelming.
Hey, but you kept your business afloat during the pandemic,
Absolutely.
which is so awesome.
Yeah. And I'm forever grateful for that because without that, I probably wouldn't have.
The timing of it, it's like, dude, you are taken care of without you even knowing. It's just having
Absolutely.
faith.
Absolutely. I tell my mom I have so much favor. Like even when you don't think you have it, you have it. Like my mom says I have a generous heart, so I never go without. And I believe that because
I
that's how
believe
I
that too.
feel. Yeah.
I totally see that. Yeah. I totally see that and 100% believe your mom with that
Oh,
too.
thank you.
Now, I wanted to give some time to go over like one of the organizations that you actually are passionate about and you support. And you said it was Abigail Barraza Foundation, right?
Yeah. So Abigail Barraza Foundation is my friend Monique Gutierrez's foundation. It's in honor of her mom who passed away from breast cancer. But she's been doing this foundation for, I want to say it's like over 20 years. She is big in just supporting young women in the community with this foundation. She has like a Miss Santa Fe Springs pageant for them. She does a lot of pop-ups in honor of breast cancer awareness. And I know she gives back to a lot of local women who are battling breast cancer or survivors. And I think it's just really important to give back to your community. And she is that. She does give back to her community. And we've been talking about it because we did a fashion show like 10 years ago together. It was Biker Beauty and Abigail's Barraza Foundation. And she's like, Ranessa, we have to do another fashion show. So hopefully you guys will see a fashion show coming soon from that. But I just think it's so important to bring awareness to breast cancer because of the amount of people who don't get themselves checked. Like it's sad that so many young women in our community do pass away from it because they just aren't aware, to get a mammogram or do these things. And her reminders, even for me, are so important. So I really appreciate the hard work that she does and she puts into it and honors her beautiful mom. If you go to her Instagram, I think it's We Love ABF. And she has pictures of her mom and her when she was younger. And now she has her own daughter who's also named Abigail, Abby.
Aww.
So it's really sweet. She has a great story and I'm really proud of her. She's really inspirational.
That's so awesome. And it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month in October
Oh, that's
too.
so
So there you
perfect.
go.
Yes, it is. It is. So if you're in the Santa Fe Springs area, they have pink ribbons all over the city and they light up the bridge. I think it's on Norwalk and I think it's Orange. They light it up pink. And that's her. She's doing
Oh,
that.
no way.
Her
Really?
foundation that makes that happen with the city of Santa Fe Springs. So she's doing big things.
That's awesome. Tell her to like hit me up, be on my podcast, whenever you
Yeah, no,
want.
absolutely. I'll definitely send her your way. She's really, really inspirational for sure.
I think I did feature her on my Intuitive Rocks
Yes,
during March when I was doing like the Empower Women thing. And I think I did do a feature of her.
yes,
And
yes, yes.
yeah, she sent me a picture of her with her daughter, I think it was. And she was
Mhm.
looking flawless and everything.
Yes, she's totally that girl.
Now, to close off, did you have anything else you wanted to say regarding your business or like anything?
So I think as far as my business, it's something that people see, like they go to my Instagram and they see pictures and posts and they see me at fairs and it looks fun and exciting and it absolutely is, but it's also hard and exhausting. Some days you're crying because you're like, what am I going to do? How am I going to sell this stuff? And the next day you're selling everything. So I think the biggest takeaway from having a small business is it's not always rainbows and sunshine. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's days that it's cloudy and it's hard, but just keep going, keep pursuing your dream, keep believing in yourself. I think believing in yourself is a big deal, but also have your tribe of people like Roxy to like keep encouraging you to keep going, because there's some days where you're just like, am I doing the right thing? Should I invest in something else? Should I get a 9 to 5? Like, what should I do?
Yeah.
But I believe that, you know, believing in myself and having a team behind me who loves me and supports me no matter what has been a big deal in my business. And I think just know that it's not all rainbows and sunshine. Like, there are hard days. There are, you know, sad days, there are broke days, but, you know, everything comes full circle and you just got to keep going.
And I mean, you've been doing it for 15 years. It's not something you just wake up and boom from one day to the next.
No, people think like, because I have like, I want to say it's like 15,000 followers, which isn't a lot on Instagram. That's like a little bit compared to some of these bigger businesses. You're like, you have so many followers, you have so many this. I'm like, yeah, that's built over 5 years and going up and down California to fairs and doing like, it's hard work, printing out like 10,000 business cards and handing them out wherever I go. Like, you have to network and promote yourself, you know, when you're not a big business. So it takes time, tears, and money for sure.
But you're doing it. You're showing it could be done. And then you've been featured in like magazines too.
So that's kind of funny. For my 40th birthday, which was last year, I'm 41 now, but I did a Gothic masquerade theme for my birthday. And I had a photographer come because I was like, well, this is my 40th. I'm probably never going to have a big party again. So let me just have a photographer come and take pictures of me so my kids can show my grandkids like, hey, this is your grandma at 40, you know? And the photographer was like, I love the photos and I want to get you featured. Like, are you okay with me trying to get them published? And I was like, yeah, sure. I didn't think it would happen. And she got me featured in a magazine in like Europe and then a photographer magazine here in the US. And I did like a couple other quote unquote pinup photo shoots. I don't consider myself a pinup, but I dress like in the pinup style. And I've gotten featured in a few other magazines. So it was something fun. I don't think it's something I'll do anymore. But it was just something that I can say that I did. Like, it was like a bucket list thing. So
yeah,
a lot of
that's so cool, because some of your pictures they look like fire, like flawless.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I think I've always had like fashion like as part of like my thing. Like, my mom would say, like, since you were young, you were always into like different things, you know? So it's something that I've always been intrigued by, because I even wanted to go to FIDM in LA, the Fashion Institute.
Okay.
So it was something that I always like loved. So it's just kind of fun being able to do it in my own business too now.
That's super cool. I only know of that school because that's where Lauren Conrad went in when she went onto the Hills show.
Actually, Monique from Abigail Barraza Foundation, she went there.
Oh, did she?
Yeah, she went there. So
that's super cool. All right. So aside from this podcast, I am building a playlist of music because music is one of my love languages. with songs, with songs that like pump people up and stuff. So I'm asking like guests that come on, like, what's that one song that you yourself go to like get yourself in a good mood?
Oh, I already knew you were going to ask this question, and I know what song, because I listen to your podcast. I'm a regular listener, just for the record. But Just Fine, Mary J. Blige will pump me up anytime, any day. Could be going to the gym or just going out and wanting to like get in the mood. Just Fine by Mary J. Blige, for sure.
I like that song. And she's pretty amazing too, still coming out with songs that like are like absolutely banging.
Yeah, someone tried to compare her to, or someone tried to compare a new artist to her, and I was like, "Are you kidding?" Mary J. Blige is you cannot compare.
No, she's been around, and all her songs like give you the feels.
Absolutely, I agree 100%.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me and come out in my podcast. I love you so much for it.
I'm so honored that you asked, because I'm like a total groupie, like I said, and I love your podcast and I love supporting you, and just know I'll always support you no matter what you do. Whatever you want to do, I'm here. I'm going to be the first follower no matter what.
Likewise. I got you.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you guys all for hanging out and listening. Until next week. And if you haven't heard already, you're hearing it now. You are remarkable, and I am proud of you. So until next week, bye.
Bye.